Okay, so I was doing another episode of the Sages podcast earlier, and I didn't feel like I was ready to put it out. But in that episode, I said I was going to do a card reading. So I decided that I would still put up the card reading. This is the disgusting Master Sage doing one of the things she does best, and that is giving insights from a spiritual perspective. I'm going to do a card reading about Mercury retrograde, and I'm coming from a stance of the people who are working towards evolution, the people who are not, the people who are light workers, the people who are constantly working to improve themselves, the people who are very emotionally empathic or emotionally aware, the people who are really honest about how the Mercury retrograde affects us. And I'm going to do a card reading that gives insight on how to operate during the Mercury retrograde, what is the point of the Mercury retrograde, and what stance should we take during the Mercury retrograde. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. If you want a card reading from me, I do 1, 3, and 5 cards in the reading. I'm going to do a 5-card reading for this one because the Mercury retrograde really be throwing shit out of whack, and you really have a lot of questions like what the fuck when Mercury retrograde hits. So I'm going to do the 5-card reading. See, my deck has a lot of caricature to it because I use it a lot, and I feel like that gives it personality. So you get a very specific reading when working with Disgusting Master Sage. So if you want a card reading, just write me a note. But I'm going to give you an example of what I do right now. One of the things that I do the best, and that is giving intuition from a spiritual standpoint about everyday things that can make life easier for all of us. So I kind of shuffled the deck already. I'm always shuffling my deck. But I'm going to go ahead and pick 5 cards, and I'll show them to you, no problem. And I'm going to do a reading, and we'll just go from there. So let's say I'm going to pick, 1 to the 2, 3, 4. Oh, the one with the Gorilla Glue tape. That's going to be very interesting. All right. So, let me show you these cards here. The question is, deck, what is the purpose of Mercury retrograde? How is the best way for us to operate during Mercury retrograde? And what can it teach us? Let's do it like that. So, these are the cards I got. And the first thing that I see is that these cards are upside down, which lets me know immediately that the Mercury retrograde does not affect us. We affect the Mercury retrograde. So I think what that means is that the Mercury retrograde brings out our shadow side. And, oh, I got 6 cards. Let me put one of these back. But it's saying that it's really not affecting us the way that we like to blame it. We are actually just seeing the side of ourselves that we don't like. And so it's time to stop blaming Mercury retrograde and begin to do the shadow work on our shadow selves. So I got this card, which piggybacks off of what I just said. This is a gift. This word is lanyap, and it means a gift. Which, looking at this card, right, it's a clamshell. When you first look at a closed clamshell, you may not know that there's a pearl in there that's super valuable. So the point of that is, take a second to do something significant during Mercury retrograde. That's a time to stop just skating through your life and purposely do something with potential. Purposely do something purposeful during Mercury retrograde. That's a time to slow down and pay attention. So that answers some of the question. This card says nature. Can you see that? Yeah. So this card is about nature, being whole with nature. What I gather from this card is that life is not always supposed to be cute. And Mercury retrograde is a natural way to remind us of that. So what I would gather from that is that we need to deepen our perspectives, because we've gotten a little bit too interested in the society and what's normal and how life goes for most people. Stop that. Stop making that noise. And we sometimes forget how natural things are supposed to be. So we got the nature card. Mercury retrograde and the feeling that comes along with it is part of what we're supposed to experience as humans. And maybe we are actually stifling our experience by trying to make things monotonous and routine. So maybe what you're supposed to do during Mercury retrograde, and what I'm supposed to do during Mercury retrograde, and people like us, empaths and light workers and sages and things, is to acknowledge it, embrace it, and maybe go on a vacation from what you normally do for a while. Let your werewolf out. It's scary and it sounds disgusting, but maybe it's time to let your werewolf out. Maybe, anything that you keep in the closet for too long gets moldy and it stinks. So it's like, let your werewolf out. So far we've gotten that it's a gift and that it's a part of the natural cycle of life. So the next card is it's an eye looking at the world. What is that? It says focus. So my first thought when I looked at this card was that there's a bigger purpose than just our satisfaction going on. There is an eye that watches over the whole world, that has a better plan and a bigger plan in motion than just what we feel like. But then when I saw focus, it let me know that if you choose to accept the challenge of Mercury retrograde, or if you choose to reject the challenge of Mercury retrograde, it's going to decide your experience during it. It's about your focus. But I'm not just saying, focus on happy things and make yourself happy. Focus on whether you're accepting what's going on or whether you're rejecting what's going on during Mercury retrograde. Because I'm going to assume that if you're rejecting what's going on, it'll make you miserable. And that if you're accepting what's going on, it'll make it more fruitful. And you'll gain more insight and knowledge. So far we've got, it's a gift that you might not necessarily notice right off the bat because it's in a clamshell. It's a natural ebb and flow of life that blossoms us. Stop shutting yourself off from the changes and cycles of life. And then this says, if you reject it or accept Mercury retrograde when it comes, it's going to determine how pleasant you get to feel about it, or how unpleasant you get to feel about it. So the next card is, don't you love my toy microphone? Yeah. It's real to me. So the next card is,
this one on the camera
says success. When I looked at this card, I saw a phoenix. This is a firebird. So maybe Mercury retrograde trims the fat off of our daydreams. As in, we all have our own perception and our own realities, which is 100% accurate, right? But there's also a common reality, or I would say laws of the universe or laws of nature. So I'm not sure what it's saying yet, but it's saying that Mercury retrograde puts things in a more realistic perspective. Even though you're supposed to have your perspective, it makes your perspective more realistic, which I think piggybacks off of when I was saying that life is not supposed to be all peachy keen sometimes, and that actually can stunt our growth to just expect life to be peachy keen all the time. So Mercury retrograde transforms us into the phoenix which means it pushes us to places that we didn't know we could go. And the way that it does that is by checking our individual realities. We all have valid individual realities, yet it needs to be checked to make sure that it's not your shadow self maybe lying. Because sometimes the shadow self can say, I'm working, but really you're sitting on the computer playing a video game. And maybe you're listening to a YouTube video, but it's like your shadow self is like, no, I'm working, I'm on the computer, look at me, I'm typing. But it's just your shadow self lying. So Mercury retrograde puts things in a realistic perspective, where it's still your perspective, is still your reality, is still your personality, but it gives you an honest feedback about what's actually going on in your world. So don't think it's stripping you of your individuality, it's just telling you the truth about your individuality. So far we have that. Mercury retrograde is a gift in a clamshell. It is a part of the natural cycle of nature, and it blossoms us. Your focus, depending on whether you accept or reject the reality of Mercury retrograde, will decide how easily you can go through the transition. And that Mercury retrograde puts things in a realistic perspective for us. The last card says adventure. And what I gather from that is that don't cement in your mind what you think Mercury retrograde is about. Like, I hear a lot of lingo like, oh, Mercury retrograde, everyone's going to be acting crazy. Oh, everything going to be fucked up, all this type of stuff. Maybe it changes and transforms just like everything else. So don't become too cemented in what you think Mercury retrograde means in your life. Keep an open mind, because as the world changes, maybe the effects of Mercury retrograde changes also. But I also see this mirror. So that's saying that it's you. It's not Mercury retrograde, it's you. Hold on a second, love. It's not Mercury retrograde, it's you. So the question was, how do we operate during Mercury retrograde? What is Mercury retrograde doing? And what is Mercury retrograde supposed to do for us? Like, what's the purpose? The purpose is to make your perspective more realistic. The purpose is that it's bigger than just you, which also flows into the fact that your life is more than being comfortable and being happy in your routine all the time. Embrace or reject the change, because that's the adventure. But it's a part of the ebb and flow, which means Mercury retrograde is supposed to shake things up, and things are supposed to be shaken up sometimes. It's an adventure. Let your inner werewolf out. So basically the point of Mercury retrograde is for us to deal with our shadow selves. And I would suggest that we do that from a place of curiosity and not judgment. I actually read that somewhere, but it really resonates right now. So accept the fact that you have a shadow self, which means the opposite of all the beautiful things you want to portray about yourself. Accept the fact that you have a shadow self. And then use this time to get to know it. I wouldn't say defeat it. I wouldn't say embrace it. I would say get to know it. The first step is getting to know your shadow self. Once you've gotten to know your shadow self, then you can decide whether to accept or reject it, or whatever you want to do with it. Reform it, evolve it. So the point of Mercury retrograde in our lives as empathic people, light workers, sages, or just people who want to know why is the vibe so freaking sticky and weird. Like, it's a wake-up call. It rocks the boat. I love you. I thank you for listening to my presentation and Sage podcast tomorrow, God willing. And yeah, let me know if you want a card reading. Shoot, don't be stingy. Get you a card reading. I answer all type of questions, personal, non-personal, financial, love, spiritual, insight, past. Like, the cards do the work and I just read them. So, okay. So nice to talk to you. Bye-bye.